My fiancé once looked me in the eye and said, "I need to see what's out there before we get married." I didn't argue. I simply told her, "Go ahead." Then I made my own choice. I explored the option of canceling everything. She didn't expect that. The shock hit her when the venue called to confirm the wedding was off. I'm 29, and for a while I really believed I had my life figured out. We were just 6 months away from what was supposed to be my dream wedding. Everything looked perfect. Venue locked down, deposits paid, guest list finalized. I'd been with my fiancé for 4 years, living together for the last 2, and I was convinced we were both ready for marriage. That illusion came crashing down one Tuesday night. She came home from her girls' night out with a look on her face I'd never seen before, nervous, almost guilty. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, twisting her engagement ring like it suddenly felt too heavy. And then she dropped a bomb. She needed to explore her options before we tied the knot. She told me her friends had gotten in her head, saying she was too young to lock herself down without experiencing more of life. According to her, taking a break would give her the chance to see what else was out there, and if she came back to me afterward, then I'd know she was truly sure. I sat there stunned while she kept talking, trying to spin it like this was good for us. She said time apart would make us stronger, that if we were really meant to be, we'd find our way back to each other. My first reaction was pure anger, but almost immediately, something else settled over me. This strange, cold clarity. I looked at her, gave a slow nod, and told her, "All right, if that's what you feel you need, then go ahead and explore your options." The way her face lit up was almost insulting. Relief washed over her like she dodged a bullet. She thanked me for being so mature, kissed me on the forehead like I was a little kid, and said she loved me for understanding. She swore it would only be a few weeks, maybe a month at most, just enough time for her to get it out of her system. That same night, she packed a bag and went to stay with her sister. I stayed behind in our apartment, staring at the wedding binder we'd poured months into, and I made a choice right then. If she was going to explore her options, I was going to explore mine. But mine didn't involve dating other people. Mine was about canceling the whole wedding and moving forward with my life. The next morning, I got to work. My first call was to the venue, a gorgeous lakeside resort we'd both fallen in love with. I explained the situation, and the wedding coordinator was surprisingly kind about it. She reminded me of the contract terms. We'd lose around 60% of what we'd already paid, but I'd get back close to $4,000. I told her to process the cancellation immediately. After that, I contacted the caterer, the florist, and the photographer. Each call got easier than the last. The band was understanding, the cake decorator a little colder, but one by one, the reservations were canceled. Yeah, I lost a good chunk of money, but I wasn't financially ruined. What I did get back was enough to give me a fresh start. By Thursday, it was all gone. The venue, the food, the flowers, the band, even the honeymoon. And by then, I was already looking at apartments in the city where I turned down a job 6 months earlier. Back then, I passed on it because she didn't want to move. Now, it suddenly looked like the best choice I could make. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was her, and she sounded frantic. She said the venue had called asking if she wanted to pick up any personal items we'd left during the final walkthrough. That's when she realized the wedding was really canceled. I confirmed it without hesitation. I told her she wanted to explore her options, and this was mine. If she wanted freedom, then she should have it fully. No wedding hanging over her head, no pressure, no obligations to come back. She went quiet for several seconds before asking if I'd lost my mind. She said she never wanted me to actually cancel everything, that she just meant this as something temporary. She insisted she only needed a little space. I told her I appreciated her honesty, but it made me see things clearly. She wasn't the only one who had been settling. I deserved someone who wanted me without hesitation, someone who didn't need to shop around first to make sure I was good enough. She hung up on me. That weekend, she showed up at the apartment while I was packing my things. I'd already arranged to move for the new job, so boxes were stacked around the living room. She looked at the half-empty space and asked what I was doing. I told her the truth. I had accepted that job offer in the city and was moving within the week. Since she needed room to explore, I was going to give her all the space she could ever want. The apartment was hers anyway. Her name was on the lease. She sank into the couch and started crying. Through tears, she told me this wasn't what she wanted, that she only needed a little more time to feel confident. She accused me of throwing away 4 years over what she called a simple request. I sat down across from her and explained what her request really meant. She was basically saying I wasn't enough for her, that she wanted to see if there was something better before committing to me. I told her point blank that someone who truly wanted to marry me wouldn't need to test the waters first. She tried to argue, saying I was twisting her words, but I didn't let up. I asked her directly, if she found someone better while she was out there exploring, would she have come back to me? The silence that followed told me everything. Eventually, she admitted she probably wouldn't have, and that was all the confirmation I needed. This wasn't about needing space or making sure about us. It was about keeping me as a backup plan while she went looking for an upgrade. I told her I respected her honesty, but I refused to be anyone's safety net. I deserved to be somebody's first choice, not a consolation prize. Update 1. Moving to the city was the smartest thing I've done in years. The new job was challenging in all the right ways, and I threw myself into building a life I could be proud of. I found a great apartment, joined a hiking group where I made new friends, and even started therapy to work through the emotional mess she'd left behind. About 3 weeks after the move, she started texting me constantly. First, it was anger. She accused me of being cruel and vindictive, of destroying our relationship when all she had done was be honest about her feelings. She claimed I twisted things to make her look like the villain. I ignored those texts, then her tone flipped. The angry messages stopped, and she started sending ones about how much she missed me. She admitted she'd made a huge mistake. She claimed that seeing what was out there only proved that what we had was rare, that she'd been a fool to risk it. She begged me to respond, pleaded for another chance. But I stayed silent. After a full month without a word from me, she reached out to my sister. She wanted to know how I was doing and whether I might be willing to talk. My sister, who's always been fiercely protective of me, shut her down. She told her I seemed happier than I'd been in years and suggested she respect my decision to move on. 2 months after everything fell apart, word got back to me through mutual friends. Apparently, my ex had been dating around first one guy, then another she'd met during her so-called exploration phase. Neither relationship lasted. According to our friends, she was telling people that I'd been her soulmate, that she'd destroyed the best thing in her life. I did feel a little sorry for her, but not nearly enough to reach out. I'd meant what I said. I deserved to be someone's first choice. Update 2. 6 months later, I was in a completely different place, mentally and emotionally. Work was going better than ever. I'd just been promoted to a senior position, and I'd started casually dating someone I'd met through friends. A woman who seemed genuinely excited to get to know me. She never once mentioned needing to explore her options. That's when my ex escalated things. Somehow, she got hold of my new address and started sending me handwritten letters. Pages and pages of regret poured out. Apologies, memories, dreams of the life she swore we could still have. She even mentioned looking into rebooking our old wedding venue for the following year. The letters unsettled me. Not because I was tempted, but because they showed she still didn't get it. She was treating this like a relationship problem that could be patched up, instead of recognizing the truth. We were fundamentally incompatible when it came to commitment. I kept the letters, but I never replied. My energy went toward my new relationship, which was growing into something healthy and mutual. Then she crossed a line. One afternoon, I came back from lunch and saw her sitting in the lobby of my office. She'd even dressed in the outfit she'd worn on our very first date. When she spotted me, she jumped up with a hopeful smile and asked if we could talk. I told her there was nothing left to say, but she followed me to the elevator anyway, rattling off apologies and desperate promises. Inside the elevator, it was just the two of us. She broke down completely, sobbing, telling me she'd been immature and scared, that losing me had opened her eyes. She said she'd ruined the best relationship of her life because she was afraid of missing out on something else, only to realize that what she was afraid of missing had been right in front of her all along. And you know what? I did feel sympathy for her pain, but I felt absolutely nothing romantic. The woman I had loved wouldn't have needed to shop around before deciding I was enough. The person in front of me was just a stranger wearing her face. I told her gently but firmly that the ship had sailed. Even if I were single, I couldn't be with someone who once treated our relationship as optional. Trust, once broken in that way, doesn't rebuild. She begged me to reconsider, swore she'd changed, insisted she finally understood what commitment meant. But I knew the difference. Understanding born from loss isn't the same thing as the natural certainty a partner should feel from the start. When the elevator opened on my floor, I walked out alone. I told her not to contact me again, and warned that if she did, it would be harassment. That was the last time I saw her in person. Update 3. A year later, I married the woman I'd been dating during my healing process. From the beginning, she knew my story, and instead of it being baggage, it actually drew us closer. She told me she admired that I had respected myself enough to walk away from someone who wasn't fully committed. She promised I'd never have to wonder about her loyalty. Our wedding was simple and perfect. Close family and friends in a beautiful garden setting. No doubts, no drama. No need for anyone to test the waters. Just two people absolutely certain about the life they wanted to build together. The night before the wedding, my phone buzzed with a long text from my ex. She wished me happiness and admitted I'd been right to leave. She said she finally understood that real love didn't need comparison shopping, and she hoped I'd found someone who valued me the way she never did. I showed the message to my fiancé, who read it calmly. She said my ex had learned her lesson, even if it came too late. Then she deleted the message and told me that chapter of my life was officially closed. She was right. The next day, standing at the altar, I watched my wife walk toward me with pure joy and certainty in her eyes, and I knew I'd made every right decision. I had refused to be someone's backup plan, and because of that, I found a woman who chose me without hesitation, without conditions, and without fear. Sometimes the best revenge isn't payback. It's refusing to accept less than you deserve and building something beautiful with someone who treasures it. My ex had wanted to explore her options, and in letting her do that, I discovered mine, the option to find real, committed love with a woman who never doubted that I was enough. Looking back, I'm strangely grateful she asked for that break. Not because I enjoyed the heartbreak, but because it forced me to see my own worth and never settle for uncertain love again. The woman who thought she needed to shop around had given me the greatest gift possible, the clarity to walk away. And the woman who stood beside me at the altar gave me something even better, unshakable commitment. That's the option I chose. That's the life I chose. So if you've made it this far, and you want to hear more stories like mine, a simple tap on that subscribe button would mean the world.